Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love. I'm going to give you the kick in the butt or that reminder that you might need in this moment right now to stop putting off whatever it is that you know that you should be doing and actually get to work. And this is not just a message to you. This is a message to myself because for the last hour, I was really procrastinating sitting down and recording this episode. For whatever reason, I knew what needed to get done, but I was still spending time prepping and researching and making notes when the truth was, those were all just forms of procrastination. I tweeted about this the other day. I said, we must never fool ourselves. Most of the time when we read a book, we take a course, we watch YouTube, we go to a conference, we listen to a podcast just like this, we are simply procrastinating. And if we were really serious about what we wanted to achieve in this life, if we're clear on our goals and how to get there, then we would just do the thing that needed to be done right now. And we wouldn't be spending time on social media scrolling and reading and pretending as though we are, it's part of the research process and that it's necessary for us to be able to do the work. We wouldn't go to YouTube and watch that video. We wouldn't be listening to a podcast like this right now at this moment. Now, that's not to say that there isn't value in doing those things. I believe there's two phases that we have to think about. One is collecting dots, and then the other is connecting dots. Collecting dots is like the curiosity phase, where we're going and we're exploring, we're learning, we're filling the creativity or the curiosity tank, which then allows us to have the raw materials necessary to recombine those things in a creative process to connect dots, right? And that is really like the two-part process that has served me really well. And I've noticed it over and over and over, and the people that I've been fortunate enough to hang around with who I consider like pretty high achievers is that they're very, very curious and they're very, very creative. So they do a good job of indulging their curiosity, filling up that curiosity tank, but they never let that curiosity tank get full or overflow, which is, I think, something that a lot of us, myself included, easily fall into that trap. We overfill our curiosity tank and we are not creating enough with what we're putting into that. So the takeaway here is right now, if you're listening to this podcast and this is a coping mechanism, a means for procrastinating on something that you know you should be doing, then I encourage you, shut it off, turn it off right now, figure out what that thing is, write it down, figure out what the next smallest step that you could take towards that goal, and then set a timer for 10 minutes. Remember, momentum is the cure for procrastination. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming 10x amount of work, right? Violence is the answer, but in the beginning, a little bit of violence can be enough to get you moving forward, overcome inertia, and get Sir Isaac Newton on your side when he said, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Our goal is just to get into motion. So if you know that's you right now as you're listening to this podcast, I encourage you, shut it off, take those next steps necessary to get that momentum. However, if you're listening to this and you are genuinely in your collecting information phase, you're collecting your dots. Maybe you're in a car, maybe you're at the gym. Like there's all these, scenarios where it's okay to be consuming and collecting information. The key, I think, is to do it with intention, to understand why you're doing it in that moment. And a lot of times I just mindlessly tune out and I watch something, I consume a piece of information because it's easier than the alternative of going and creating something. It's always easier to indulge your curiosity than it is your creativity, because curiosity is by its nature an act of consumption, whereas creativity is, as the word implies, an act of creation, and that is always much more difficult. But a life of fulfillment exists only in the actions and the things that we do, not in the things in which we consume. So go out there, create more, consume less. So hopefully, if this catches you in the moment where you are just putting something off important that you know you need to be working on, that you could be working on, that you have all the things in place that you could actually be making progress, but you just choose not to, you've zoned out, and I've caught you, we've caught you, and your lazy biological brain trying to distract you, keep you off task because it's easier than the alternative. If this is you, then allow this to be the catalyst for getting back on track. It doesn't have to be a ton of action again. Just take the next tiniest step. And then go ahead and come back here when you're ready to fill up that curiosity tank. Again, we'll see you back around these parts tomorrow, everybody. I appreciate you. Maybe not as much as your mother and your father appreciate you, but it's pretty close. It's a three-way tie. On any given day, we swap places. So go give your dad a high five, give your mom a fist bump, and I'll see you guys back around these parts tomorrow. But until then, stay hyper-focused, my friend.